you're good to go, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. A warm good evening to all of you, our eminent speakers, Sarthak family members, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome each and every one of you to the Sarthak NAAI 8th National Conference on Disability. I am Shahina Nizar, Advisory Board Member, Sarthak Education Trust. Sarthak Education Trust and National Abilympic Association of India are organizing this 8th National Conference on Disability over 2 days, today and tomorrow. The theme of this year's conference is Digital, Divyang, Enabled and Empowered. This event will witness 10 enriching panel discussions with eminent national and global experts. Through this panel discussions, we look forward to deliberate and plan for bridging the barriers in the line of inclusion of PWDs through digital mediums and further accelerate the pace of their inclusion-led empowerment. Sarthak Education Trust has been working since 2008 and in the last 13 years has successfully reached out to 0.8 million Divyang in India. So far, 34,300 PWDs have been trained and 24,350 PWDs have been placed in regular sustainable employment through our 24 centers across India. We are delighted to share you that Sarthak is expanding our global presence by opening our first center in London. With our digital solutions, CAP Sarathi, mobile app for PWDs, Roskar Sarathi, job portal for PWDs, we aim to touch more lives and catalyze their empowerment. We take pride in sharing that we adopted online model for all our service areas. To further strengthen this, we have started digital literacy program to equip PWDs with the understanding to use digital solutions effectively. We have been hosting NCD since 2014, and over the years, the scope of it has only expanded and created a platform for various stakeholders in the sector to come together. This conference is the occasion to celebrate these achievements and plan the way ahead towards our dream of an enabled, empowered digital Divyang. The COVID pandemic has forced us to do this edition of international conference through a virtual platform. Today, we have an international panel who will enlighten us on the topic, Global Overview on Disability Inclusion. We will be discussing on global best practices for empowering the disability sector, strengthening the accessibility factor for building an inclusive world for PWDs, and impact on COVID-19 on persons with disabilities across the globe. Let me proudly welcome our eminent panelist, Ms. Rupa Naik, Senior Director, World Trade Center, Mumbai. We are elevated to have you with us, ma'am. Mr. Kriban Trona, Director of Operations, the British Polio Fellowship. We are really honored to have you with us, sir. Ms. Diana Lightfoot, CEO, Business Disability Forum. We are grateful to have you with us, ma'am. Mr. Debashish Pasunda, CEO, Seat Maritime UK Limited. We are indeed privileged to have you with us, sir. Mr. Nish Parikh, CEO, Rangam. Delighted to have you with us, sir. Ms. Revati Rukmini, South Asia Regional Representative, Leonard, Cheshire. We are pleased to have you with us, ma'am. Mr. Sandeep Bhargava, Founder and CEO, Lead EdTech. Great pleasure to have you with us, sir. And we have an esteemed moderator for the session, as Mr. Siddhartha Rastogi, MD and Chief Operating Officer, Ambit Assessment Management. Let me introduce our moderator. Siddhartha ji is an avid reader and writer. His article on finance and life are very popular on social media. He's a motivational speaker and life coach. Siddhartha ji is also the author of the book 8-Minute Decision, which helps with effective decision making. He specializes in economics, capital markets, fundraising, people management, banking, and behavioral finance. Over the years, he has constantly thought about making the world more enduring for the last living men and hence he thought the noblest way to give back to the society is to teach impact education, and thus come the initiative to partner with schools like Master Union School of Business, where he is one of the faculty members and trusted mentors, and Meghna Desai Academy of Economics, where he is one of the mentors and digital educator. He also teaches us World Trade Center Mumbai on international trade and entrepreneurial opportunities to boost India's self-reliance and forex reserves. Siddhartha is also on the advisory board of various social organizations like Sarthak, English e-Teach, etc. We are really proud to have you with you, Siddhartha ji, as the moderator. It's indeed proud to have national and global experts together on the same platform to share their knowledge and give practical solutions. We hope that we'll have a productive discussions today. And now let me invite Siddhartha ji to take it forward. Thank you all.
Thank you, Shahina ji. It was really kind of you to give such a generous introduction of me. I'm not worth those words. Thank you so much. And I welcome all my with warm heart, with all the warmth to all the guests for sparing time out. I'm really obliged because your wisdom, your ideas, your knowledge can really shape the future of people with disability and their engagement and their contribution, not only in India's GDP, but into the world's GDP. So thank you for sparing time out. Last year has been very, very tough. Last 18 months have been very, very tough. Everybody has lost, or everybody knows someone who has lost, or everybody who has suffered or knows someone who has suffered because of COVID. If I have to say, in the words of Seneca, the famous Stoic, he said, sometimes even to live is an act of courage. Sometimes to live is an act of courage. And this statement fits well with every Divyangjan, with every organization which is working in the field of disability, empowering disability. And today, we are going to talk about this. We are going to talk about how COVID has changed the landscape. It has done a lot of harm, but has it developed some opportunities? So we are going to learn from Rupaji, we are going to learn from Kripan, we are going to learn from Debashish, we are going to learn from Revati ji, Diane, Nish, and every member of this panel. Let me introduce you. Shahina ji has kindly introduced most of the members, but let me give a little more detailed background about each of our panelists, the esteemed panelists. So the first one is Diane Lightfoot, the CEO of Business Disability Forum, a UK-based not-for-profit partnership which supports and recruits and retains differently abled employees and to serve disabled customers. Business Disabilities Forum, 400 members, employees, nearly 20% of the UK workforce, and around 8 million worldwide. They range from FTSE 100 companies to the central government departments, to technology, to transportation, to construction, retail, higher education, and lot other sectors. She's a very passionate lady who believes genuinely that people with disability can contribute immensely towards the country, towards the organization, towards the community and society. So thank you, Diane, for sparing time, and welcome on board. The second panelist is Kripan Drona, the Director of Operations for British Polio Fellowship. Kripan joined the British Polio Fellowship in 2014 after many years of working in marketing in hospitality industry. The British Polio Fellowship is the only UK national charity dedicated supporting those living which have polio and which have post-polio syndromes. Through the work, Kripan has seen many challenges, but he has enabled also several people from abject ignominy to prominence. And let's hear the journey of Kripen also. So Kripen, thank you so much for sparing time with us. Such a pleasure to have you on board. Rupa ji is a known, she has been a patron, she has been a well-wisher, she has been a friend of Sarthak for years and years. She is a specialist in trade promotion. She is the senior director at World Trade Center, Mumbai, the biggest trade center of India. Having interface, she's an extremely enterprising lady who brings government, business community, various organizations together and finds synergies of doing things in a better manner. So madam, thank you for always being a source of inspiration and a light of hope for Sarthak and for people with disability. Amit, who's yet to join us, Amit Sajeva, the founder of Mahatma Awards. Mr. Sajeva is a stout Gandhian who echoes the principle of Mahatma Gandhi, is an expert on sustainability and social responsibility. So Amit will be joining us shortly and we'll welcome him then. Nish Parekh, the CEO of Rangam. Nish is the co-founder and the CEO of Rangam, a New Jersey-based company specializing in developing a range of innovative solutions for special need education, for vocational skill training, for an inclusive employment. So Nish is actually working as a bridge between the business community and people with disability, enhancing their skills and then getting them employed into the social sector. So thank you, Nish, for being part of it, part of this journey with Sarthak. Thanks for sparing time. Debashish Majumdar, one of the stalwarts, the CEO of Seed Maritime UK. Debashish was born in Patna, is now a British citizen. He's a chief engineer by profession and has spent many years with British Civil Services. He was the head of the UK Ship Register as well. Presently, he's the CEO and the founder of the Seed Maritime UK. He has been again a very staunch patron and an advocate of inclusion and enabling rights and enabling employment for people with disability. So thank you, Debashish, for taking time out from your busy schedule. We are grateful that you could be with us. Our next panelist is Revati ji. Revati Rugmani, South Asia Regional Representative for Leonard, Cheshire. Revati ji has over 30 years of experience in the area of development. For last 10 years, she had led the economic inclusion programs across South Asia. She has shaped Leonard, Cheshire global work on designing digital employment pathway for persons with disability. Revati ji holds master's degree in science, law, and social work, and holds PhD in micro enterprises and women empowerment. So thank you, Revati ji. You have such immense experience in the space of social work, in enabling various people, various kinds of people across geographies, across the world. So thank you. We'll learn quite a few things from you, madam. So thanks for sparing time out. Last but not the least, our senior, one of the very senior board members, Sandeep Bhargava-ji, the founder and the CEO of Sarthak Leap EdTech. He is the former executive vice president of Vodafone. He is an experienced hand in corporate affairs, public policy domain, telecommunications, and a thorough professional. So thank you, Sandeep ji, for sparing time out. Also, thanks to Bhavna, Nishtha ji, Vishal ji, Mansi ji, Soumya ji, and Jasmine ji for bringing this, putting this entire show together so that people can learn from these stalwarts. So thanks so much, guys, for being part of this. My first question straight is to Deanne. Diane, you have worked in various environments. You have worked in various systems, process, and you have been also a strong advocate how the differently abled can be made productive. And we saw that when the COVID struck, every lot of people were laid down, and obviously the first victims are obviously the people with disability. So what how did you manage this devastating situation? Are there any learnings which we can take, which India can take, which organizations working in the space of disability can take? Deanne, please. Thank you for having being with us. Deanne, please.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. So as was mentioned in the very kind introduction, we work with over 400 businesses, and around half of those businesses work beyond the UK, whether that is truly globally, so likes of HSBC, Shell, Unilever, or whether it's pan-European in certain markets. So very kind of rich evidence base, really. And our philosophy is that this is about, firstly, it's a whole organization approach, but it's about talent. And people with disabilities, and in the UK we use the term disabled people, so that's why it was in the introduction, but people with disabilities represent a huge pool of talent. And we know that businesses that employ diverse ranges of people are more creative, are more innovative. If you employ people who think differently and bring different lived experiences, then you have got a better business that creates better products and better services and better meets the needs of all your customers. So when COVID hit, we were very prepared for organizations or businesses to be saying, disability inclusion isn't our top priority right now. There's too much else on. But actually, the opposite happened. And many businesses came to us and said that they had realized that they could think differently about disability and about how they can recruit and support and work differently across geographical boundaries, actually. So that's been particularly beneficial. And we probably wouldn't be having this conference like this online if it wasn't for some of the things that have happened through the pandemic and that enables us to bring people together across the globe. So in the UK, certainly before COVID, working from home was the most frequently requested workplace adjustment or accommodation. And lots of businesses did it. And lots of businesses were really afraid to, because, you know, that whole thing about being able to see people in the workplace. And overnight that shifted. And we particularly saw that senior leaders were involved in that shift and involved in actually really getting close to their employees with disabilities and seeing what the barriers and the challenges are. So there's some actual real positives about people who are working in a way that suits them, whether that's because transport's not accessible, because of managing pain or fatigue or whatever. And of course, there are downsides as well. We know that disabled people have been more likely to fall out of work. Not all jobs can be done remotely. And then there's the whole issue of mental health and isolation. But I think there are positives of this way of working that we can keep and that we can hang on to. And as we hopefully move eventually beyond COVID, I'm looking forward to the Omega variant, I must say, that we then hang on to that and we don't just drift back to how things were because we can, but we remember how to include people and work differently. So I know you didn't want a big long answer, so I'll stop there.
No. So you gave a very, very relevant thing. You said that God's will just superseded everything. COVID happened, yes. and people just turned overnight. And we are just hoping that should continue. And that's the most beautiful place where the differently able can be such a beautiful and such a fantastic thought process. Thank you, Deanne, for bringing this forward. Next question is to Kripan. Kripan, your thoughts. What went right with COVID? What went wrong with COVID? Are there so specific to your ecosystem where you work, because you are are a passionate player in the space of polio and the people who are impacted by polio and subsequent after effects. So how did you tackle, and all of a sudden when in the month of March, April, May, June, when things were very, very bleak, there was no ray of hope, how did you guys tackle, and then how did it emerge? So are there any learnings from here, please?
Yeah, thank you very much, Siddharth. As has already been said, COVID really has dominated and overtaken a lot of our lives in a lot of different ways, some positive, some negative. For the polio community, a lot of them has always found it very difficult to just find employment because of their complex needs. And the other problem with polio is it's not only living with the effects of polio after the initial bout of the virus, it's living with a condition called post-polio syndrome, which comes on much later in life and presents new problems and adds to the issues that the polio person is having. It's almost like a second bite of the cherry off of polio, people say to me. But many of the polio community were already feeling very, very isolated prior to COVID. And many of them have quite complex respiratory problems, which obviously presents difficulties with COVID as well. And so I would suggest that many very self-confident and self-assured people were affected quite dramatically mentally. And even now, I get people phoning me up and saying, should I go out? Is it safe for me to go out? And I'm thinking, you're a very confident person.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll say before very quickly about polio people is that they're very, very resilient. I don't know if that's something to do with the way the polio affected them in their younger life, where they were isolated from their family and friends very early on. But a lot of the polio community have chosen to go past that and go against that. Most of them missed most of their schooling when they were younger. So they've chosen to educate themselves in some way and go on to have really, really successful careers on a lot of occasions. And I think that should be applauded for the polio community. However, as COVID hit,
can I interject? You spoke about some of the people who have become successful. What do you see any specific steps which they took? Because that will be very, very helpful, please. Some of them became successful.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I'm saying that some of the people who you just said that they have become successful against all odds. So some of the things which they did, which we can pick up, some of the things which we can pick up from there.
Absolutely. I mean, I know, for example, some people have done very well in the arts and entertainment world. Mary Berry is a good example. She's a survivor, and she was on the judge on Great British Bake Off. Adi Etipedian, who's a Paralympic racer, basketball player, and Strike is another one. She was born in Kenya in extreme poverty, moved to the UK and became a Paralympic wheelchair racer. So there's many, many examples like that of, but I would say people have done massive things, but also on a day-to-day basis, it's just simply people being successful in the field of accounts, media, law, local government, all fields of life.
Wow.
So when COVID hit, it really did affect many of our very isolated members, and we worked hard in terms of embracing these issues, and really we chose as an organization to continue to be here for our community as long as we could. We didn't furlough anybody. It was a firm decision made that everybody would continue working from home and be there for the community. And we were never more needed during COVID. Whatever the issues were, many people were finding issues with getting on the self-isolation list, for example. Others were finding issues with even simple things like getting shopping on a day-to-day basis. In terms of the employment side of things, we do have a smaller number of people now in the employment market, but they're significant, and they do report challenges about getting employment within the community. And we want to be there to support them in however we can. One of the things, and I think a big problem that some of them face is that already say self-isolated or feel isolation. And when they go back to work, they want to go back to some kind of office environment to be able to have that interaction with people. And so many people are closed in offices. And I understand the reasons for that. I think there needs to be a balance between working from home and office work. So that's one of the challenges I see in COVID moving forward. It's actually how we go about making sure that people are included. And many people from the disabled community say to me, my legs might not work properly, my arms might not work properly, whatever it is, but my mind's perfectly fine and I'm sharp as I ever was. And I often say to people, don't look at the person, don't look at their disability. Treat the person with respect and dignity, and that's often forgotten. And I will stop there because I know I carried on for a long time.
No. So this is interesting, because what you're saying is ultimately the education, just telling people, just putting things in the right perspective helps a lot. So thank you. This is wonderful. And the examples which you gave of people who are in the arts or music space and they have made big, and from the remotest area, this is very, very inspirational. Thank you, Kripan, for bringing this out. My next question is to Rupaji. Rupaji, you work with women, with various social issues, and World Trade Center is actually, as I mentioned earlier, is also a bridge. It brings the government, the industry, and the people together. So how has been your journey in enabling women, people with disability during this COVID period, and what World Trade Center played? How did World Trade Center supported this entire cause of people with disability and economically weaker section of the society, for especially pertaining to women?
Thank you, Siddharth. First of all, I'd like to tell you that what we did from World Trade Center was, when we had our camp for vaccination, we organized for the differently abled people to come there and get their vaccinations, because it was extremely difficult to get them vaccinated in most of the centers, because we all know how difficult it was to get a vaccine in those days. So we sponsored the vaccines for all the families of people working in the World Trade Center, whether they were our staff or whether they were officers here in the World Trade Center, irrespective of that. But yes, we do work with a couple of organizations that specialize in empowering disabled individuals. So we organized for them to come here and get vaccinated. So that was one thing that we did. And secondly, there is this lady who works with, I'm sure you know about Paithani saris. So she started helping women and young individuals who wanted to work on the looms. She trained them to make the Paithani sari.
Wow.
And I introduced her to a very important lady in the city. And she in turn helped her to meet with big bankers. So that happened to be the Diwali gift for their clients.
Wow.
And we also changed the concept of Paithani. It is normally made on silk.
Correct.
But I told her, why don't you try making it on georgette?
Oh, wow. Innovation. Yes.
Well, it was innovation, and all the young women loved it.
Wow.
Because silk is not something which is a very, it's very formal, but when you wear a georgette, it's a party wear.
Correct. And silk is very, 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 very expensive. It doesn't come cheap at all. Yeah.
Yes,
So there is no cheap silk.
So 2 or 3 of the leading bankers had got these saris made from this particular lady's organization, and she makes them in Yeola and Pune.
Wow.
We also helped them to make, we bought flowers made by these people, by these young individuals. If you want, I can show you. Can you just bring that one flower from there? So these are made with a particular kind of plastic and glass. They're very beautiful flowers. You can see them.
Wow. Yes, yes, we can. Yes.
So, and they look very beautiful. There is a little, there are some flowers which you can light. So at night, if you have them at a party or someplace, then they light up. So they look very beautiful in dim lights. So these are some of the things which we try to bring about. And I really feel what's very important right now for all of us is with COVID, we all got disabled. The world was disabled. So it was extremely difficult for all of us to come to terms with the disability that we were encountering in our life. Whereas I don't think these people had any problem. Because they already are, they're already facing life in a different way. So they know what a challenge is. They know how challenging life can be. But to us, we take everything for granted. We take movement for granted, whereas they don't. So what they need really from us is not empathy. They need to be empowered. We don't need to look at them with any kind of, sadness. Yes, they're a part of us. And let me share this with you. When COVID was happening all around, I never thought it could affect my family so badly. But when it actually happened in my house, I was shocked because 4 people from my house got COVID at one time. So we should never take anything for granted. We should treat all of them as one of us. And I think that is part of the SDGs also, reduction of inequalities. So from a World Trade Center point of view, I would suggest something very important, which is entrepreneurship. We should invite such people, because anybody who is disabled has been given a different gift by God. That's why I think they're called differently abled. They have some ability which none of us have. And it's far more stronger. So they would definitely make very good entrepreneurs. So we must identify such people who have entrepreneurship skills within them. Help them to participate in exhibitions, normal exhibitions, have spaces reserved for them, for products made by entrepreneurs who are differently abled. Don't have special schools to teach them a skill, but have special schools to make them entrepreneurs. Do not charge any rate of interest from a bank if you finance any such physically disabled person, because he is going to do business and provide employment to so many others. There are clusters across India. There are food clusters, there are auto clusters, there are textile clusters. Reserve places for differently abled people to have their own workshops there. I'm sure they will be able to come up to the expectations. In fact, their products would be far more better than what is being made by others, because the entire focus is on the product. I've seen so many of them. Their total focus is on what they're doing. They are not distracted by what's happening around them. So I have very little to add because I don't really work directly with them. But in whatever way I work with some of the organizations like Sarthak, or with this lady who makes Paithani saris. I do work with them, and I really feel every time I work with them that they're far more intelligent than us. They have so many skills within them, and most importantly, they're more human than us. They understand our disabilities, if I may say so. We are more disabled than them.
Very, very profound. Very, very profound, Rupaji. Thank you. So entrepreneurship is the way forward. One of the key things which we all need to focus is entrepreneurship for the differently abled or for people with with disability, and that should make a finite big change for the times to come. So thank you, Rupaji. My next question is to Amit. Amit, you are an expert in the space of social work, social responsibility, corporate social responsibility, and you have a great amount of interest as well as passion in this social space as well. Plus, you are a Gandhian, so we all understand from the genre you come from. So, what do you think can be so you know the latest statistics, right? So now there are 21 disabilities, and even if I just look at India per se, we are talking about anything from maybe around 3 to 4% of the population of India, which is a large number, which is a very, very large number, which will run into 10 million or maybe a couple of million people who will be differently able. So how do you make them productive? How do you make them inclusive? How do you make them part of the ecosystem? Your thoughts, and keeping in perspective the COVID. Yes. So keeping in perspective.
Well. Good evening first to everyone, and sorry I joined late because some connection problem. So my apologies. 690 million people living with disabilities in Asia Pacific region. And if you look at it, I would like to quote here Miss Rupa Nair, who really talked about that we all were disabled during these past couple of years, 2 years rather. And, technology I would talk about, because technology enabled us. But what about people with disability? How technology, because technology is the way forward. And we are going to work from home, that's there. And the pandemic shows that the digital technology is allowing entire population to work, learn and operate remotely, are here to stay. We now need to ensure that these technologies are inclusive and accessible for a person with disability. As a first step, policies on information accessibility should align with the international guidelines and standards and offer incentives for the private sector to apply them. To ensure a more resilient and disability inclusive post-COVID-19 world, government should adopt a twin track, approach to disability inclusion. Systems and institutions must be reformed to maintain disability concern into policies, across spectrum, maybe education, social protection, labor, infrastructure, development. So I think that's very important. And, Asia Pacific region has been a global leader in promoting disability inclusion for the past over 30 years. And the Asian strategy to make the right real, for person with disability in Asia and the Pacific. So I think, countries now have the opportunity, not only countries, we all as an organization, for-profit, non-profit organization, opportunity to demonstrate this commitment once again, which, we have started long back, 30 years ago. So I think that's what we have to build back better in the post-COVID world, the infrastructure around disabilities and especially technology.
So basically what you are saying that the technology and the availability of cheap technology, because the cost matters a lot. So availability of the cheap technology and accessibility of the cheap technology, that's the key to empower differently abled and make them more inclusive and provide them equal rights in the society as well. So
yes, when COVID happened and lockdown was there, and initially, we had to struggle with technology, many people. But now we are in that space where we have learned, we have evolved, we have done a lot of innovation around technology. So now we are in a better position to hand over that technology and the new apps and availability of new innovations to differently abled.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Thank you, Amit, for bringing this wonderful perspective here. Nish, you are the man, because you are the man who would be in demand for, I'm sure, for last 18 months, right? All of a sudden, your products, your services, your contribution to this space would have multiplied multifold. I'm a little bit exaggerating, but I'm sure your business and your contribution would have shown. So what has been your learnings? What has been your experience? Because I'm sure you are seeing it from very close circles. Please, Nish.
Oh, thank you, Siddharth. Yeah, so when we talk about disability, I'll get to your point, but I'll just give you a couple of points which I truly believe in. Disability, there are two types of disabilities, visible and invisible. And invisible disability is where the complexity is. There are only 30% people have visible disability. 70% of us has invisible disability. In United States, 1 out of 5 has visibility, which has a disability, visible or invisible. That makes it 55 million. What I'm hearing from India, leaders from India, is that we have 1 out of 10, but we know diagnosis, awareness, a lot of limitations. We are getting there. We are getting a lot more better. Second thing is, what I believe is every one of us has some abilities and some availabilities and some strengths and some weaknesses. When we talk about people with disability, it's all about how we help them manage their weaknesses, and we focus on their strength, and we focus on something which they are good at. Every individual has a different needs. Either they are entrepreneur, or they are good at something which is more repetitive work. It's about our job to make that connection and connect them with the right job. One of the biggest challenge, the disability community globally, they feel it's not about sympathy. And when it comes to India, this is very much, I've been working a lot of things and doing a lot of things in India for the last 15 years. And in US, about 20, 25 years in this space. Sympathy is not going to take us anywhere, right? It's about empathy. How we put ourselves in their shoe, understand their needs, and create that inclusive, empathetic culture so that they are able to thrive, right? Answer to your question. So one of the things before I get to that point is we partner with a lot of universities and researchers all over the world. And one of our research is with Stanford University, and where we are providing our technology, our staffing industry expertise, and we are building scalable and sustainable disability hiring best practices through this 3-year research project. And one of the survey we did, and we asked this question to people with disability: when you are looking for a job and when you are looking at the employers, what is the one thing you look for when you are applying for a job? 60% of the candidates, they said, I want to work for the company where I'm not misunderstood. That trusted environment, how can we create that trusted environment at work as well as in the society? That's what we do. So a little bit about my work at Rangam. I call this empathy drives innovation every single day. And through this empathetic culture, we are building very innovative workforce solutions for global companies. And in last 2 years, it has been just amazing journey. I call this innovation on steroid. That's what we went through. We created brand new technology models, brand new products and services. We changed the whole strategy. When we were, one of our implementation is for Johnson & Johnson, where our whole strategy was to hire people with disability, for on-site jobs. And within few weeks, in month of April, we rapidly just changed the whole model, and we brought the talent, the same talent, using the work from home model. So we changed those tools, the communication, and the whole strategy. So it has been amazing learning. But the beautiful thing about COVID and last 2 years, COVID has brought all of us, everyone at the same play field, all talent at the same play field, right? And so if I can work from home, and some of the things to conclude, we hire a lot of people with disability, neurodivergent as part of Rangam's team, US and as well as in India. And what we have experienced is some of these individuals, they were really struggling. We were kind of changing their locations, changing the rules a little bit here and there, because we believe it's all about how we create the right job and right roles and responsibilities so they are successful. And all those things just disappear. Person working from home, some of the individuals, they've been struggling, right, because of the isolation and some of those other challenges. But again, it's all individual dependent. But thank you for the opportunity to come and speak and share some of my thoughts. But India, what we have experienced to conclude that companies in India are really looking for this type of solutions to really scale up, because it's not about 1, 2, or 5 or 10 hires. It's about, how do we build this best practices and hiring best practices and this and processes so that we are truly inclusive. So that's where we need to get, and it has started, and COVID has triggered that, and that change is rapidly spreading all over the globe.
Thank you, Nish. Very, very small yet very powerful thing you mentioned. The differently able looks for a very small thing. He should not be misunderstood.
Yeah.
That's such a small thing, but such a powerful thing. Thanks for bringing this out. Really, really admire your insights on this. And thanks for doing such wonderful work for people with disability. Gratitude. Thank you. Next question is to Debashish. Debashish, you have been a stalwart. You have started from India. You know the challenges in India, and you have been a special friend of India. Although you left India and now you are a British citizen. So tell me about your journey and how did you got helping for the people with disability. How did you got enrolled, and what has been your experience? Looking at, India situation, the UK situation, and some learnings which we can implement in India, some things which UK is doing well, some learnings, some teachings. Debashish, please.
Okay. Firstly, thank you, Shahina ji and Siddharth ji for the lovely introductions. Thank you very much. I'm very, very honored to be here. And as you said, yes, I've been with the civil service in the Department of Transport in a senior level in the government for many years. And I've seen a lot of, I've been trained for disability recruitment also. I was in the board of the civil service. Okay, now today, what we want to hear now, my little bit what I'm talking about is different because I'm a UK advisory board member for Sarthak. So Sarthak has started the UK chapter, and Dr. Jitendra Agarwal, the founder, I'm so, overwhelmed that he has chosen me to be a part of Sarthak. So I'm overwhelmed for that, and I'm trying my level best to do. So here, what sort of a thing, I'm going to a little bit talk about the global overview on disability inclusion, which is actually the topic. Now, I should mention that as an individual's disability can play a major role in his or her life. This can be positive or this can be negative. But overcoming the challenges and developing confidence is the vital and admirable, isn't it? As a family of Sarthak in UK, it's utmost duty to allow people with disabilities to experience a life they deserve. We are all different, as Rupa ji said, we're all different, but we are very much alike at the same time. Like disability awareness helps, subsiding the stereotype mindset of the society, hence providing a vast opportunities for everyone to get involved in creating a positive, inclusive society for all. The most noble part of Sarthak, which I like, is not only to provide treatment and training to the disabled person or the differently abled person, but to give them jobs. When a differently abled person gets a job, that is the time he or she feels that they can earn money and they are no more a burden to the family or the state or the government. That's the real thing we want to get into them. That is the happiness, because I've been to Delhi with Dr. Agarwal and various people and seen, because for disabled people, because maybe we think we are all not disabled, one day of passing is also a challenge. Every day they are facing a challenge, okay? Now, if we get this sort of a feeling to them, where, they feel that they can earn the money and support, because every disabled person, when they grow up, they feel they are a burden to their parents, to whoever, Now, I will tell you what this sort of a part of the world thinks about disability, inclusion. Now, I live in a city called Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales. So I'm into Wales. I'm also a governor for the Welsh schools. And I'm also involved in a lot of community services. So nothing there, because I won't say I'm passionate, because everybody here is passionate. Otherwise, you would not be here in the panel today. So all people are passionate here. Now, a little bit about what, following the UK's departure from the EU, the Welsh government, I'm talking about Wales a little bit, and then I'll talk about England. The Welsh government wants to ensure that the disabled people's voices are heard, and that they have an access to specialized information, including advice and support, with changes that affect them. Now, to do this, the Wales government, are working closely with two big societies here, which are called Disability Wales and Wales Council for Voluntary Action. So, which is the national membership organization for the third sector and volunteering in Wales, and organizers represented in the Wales Government Disability Equality Forum. Now, we will try as Sarthak UK to work with these people. Now, I'm 20 years in Wales, so I'm talking a little bit more about Wales. Now, coming to England, the National Disability Strategy, there was a strategy set out with the government's vision to improve everyday lives of disabled people. This strategy was developed with an input of more than 14,000 disabled people, as well as disabled organizations, business, policy experts, and others. Now, UK Disability Survey launched this year in January, went on till April, I think, April of this year. Thousands of people responded to inform this strategy, including disabled people, their families, carers. Now, UK and Welsh Scottish government, and even the Northern Ireland government, share a strong commitment to supporting disabled people to enjoy the choice and control so vital independent living. This is already there. Now, Sarthak, we have to go in and start working with these people and these organizations in the near future. So that is what I'm, because this Sarthak UK will try to get a smile in a differently abled face. That's our motto here. So now I am in contact with renowned people, with patrons, ship owners, and I've been a little bit successful in getting some donations to start up, because in Sarthak UK, we are in scratch. We are starting from new. So we got about £1,000 from a ship owner, and I'm trying to look into other different people to, start off to build some funds. Now, before I conclude, I would also like to share with you a different international platform. Now, as we know, like when you have this thing, information, thought, then you have to action a thought to get a result, right? Because we have all thoughts all over, but unless you action it, you won't get a result. So I have tried a little bit to action some of these thoughts. And I as Rupa ji and other panelists were saying, that we have got tremendous potential and talented, differently able people around the world. So I'm trying to get the differently able people, the talented people, into a different musical platform so that they can perform. So I have just to know with you, because all the people who are singing, like who are viewing this, and who are, will be interested. Like on 26th of December, 2021, I'll be hosting an event called Eurosur. This is a musical platform for amateur singers, and 5 countries are participating in it. And you will love to know why I'm saying this here. 2 Sarthak people who are trained from Sarthak, 2 very young gentlemen, are going to sing. So I would love that if you all can come and give them an applaud on that day. And, as I'll be so pleased to mention that Dr. Jitendra Agarwal has been so kind enough to be present on that. So Eurosur will be in air with the Eurosur Facebook link on 12 noon at London time and 5:30 p.m. Indian time. And I would love that. And I will also encourage any of the differently able people who have talents for painting, singing, poetry, any sort of a creation event to come through Sarthak panel, through Mansi or Bhavna and something, contact me. And I would like to put them in a global platform. I have done this for a painter in Chandigarh, who is also a Sarthak painter, and his painting got sold in 1 episode. So it is sort of a thing. These sort of small things I try to do so that, and Sarthak team here in the UK, we have a fantastic team and we're getting volunteers. And I'm trying to do, whatever a little bit I can to get a smile in a differently abled people. So thank you very much for that. And thank you all panelists for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Debashish ji. You continue to support Sarthak. You continue to support all the endeavors. So thank you so much for your wonderful words. And you encourage us all the time. Shakuntala ji, namaste and welcome to the panel. Shakuntala ji, can you hear me? My video may be a little lagging. Can you hear me? Shakuntala ji, can you hear me? Shakuntala ji, can you hear me? Okay, sorry. So Revati ji, because it's written Shakuntala there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, so sorry. I logged in from another account. That's why.
No, my bad. Sorry, Revati ji, my bad.
Okay.
Apologies. So my question, Revati ji, is that you have 30 years of experience in the social space. You have done such excellent work. How has been this last 18 months journey? What did you feel? What did you do? How did you took charge of COVID? And how did you perform things so that the society and inclusion still remains a top priority?
Yeah, thanks to the Sarthak team to invite Leonard Cheshire for this wonderful event and to share our work or share our learning, not only from the 18 months, but from our journey on inclusion. So it is my pleasure to be here. So when I look at it from the last 18 months, it was really an period of opportunities, learning and opportunities. That's what it is. So when you look before that, everything we were thinking that we need to be physically present as a structure, as a team, to be in the field so that things will move. So that was a thing. So, but last 18 months made you reflect and act accordingly to reach the last mile with whatever preparations and whatever adaptations that we need to make, and how the technology can play a vital role in bringing people together, staying together, thinking together and acting together. So that was something, an amazing journey the last 18 months. And when you look at from the persons with disability space, yes, of course, a lot of challenges. So every challenge comes with a solution. So that is the biggest thing. Okay, we thought, okay, he's not able to access the internet. He doesn't have a smartphone. What should we do? Can we connect with his peers? Can we negotiate with an internet cafe? Or can we connect with an institution? Or can we connect with the local government authorities? So it opened up wide range of opportunities for us, that collaborative way of working, supporting each other. It doesn't left us, no, okay, we are affected by pandemic, so let us be quiet, let us be sit and think beyond. So that gave us an opportunity. And one of the critical thing which happened in the last 18 months is that we were able to bring a lot of corporate volunteers to mentor our people, especially from the life skills, because many have lost their jobs, many have gone back to their villages, and they were afraid to come back to the cities to take up the jobs, even if the economic opportunities are there, and they wanted to get into their own agricultural field, or get into their own traditional or in the informal sector engagements. So we thought that how to keep them together. That was one thing. So we approached many corporates, and I should really appreciate that the Accenture volunteers have come on board from different locations in India, and they were mentoring our people. Every Saturday we have webinars to mentor them, to provide them the required life skills, to prepare them for entrepreneurship, prepare them for appearing for interviews if they want to come back to work, or prepare them for appearing for some of the public sector undertaking exams, banking exams, or the public sector undertaking. A lot of apprenticeship opportunities are there. So the journey was amazing. So, and also it made us learn another important thing, where we used to work with 5-member team or 10-member team in the grassroots. Now we are working with a bunch of volunteers who are devoting time for 1 hour or 2 hours during weekdays or during the Saturday, Sundays. And also we have very limited program management team. So that is the way we have managed to structure or position ourselves to reach the last mile. And yes, of course, the internet has been a struggle, or we need to arrange sign language interpreters during the training program. So we need to ensure all the accessibility features when we work with persons with disabilities. So we try to bring in, look at all the options. What is the best way to make them understand or train them? And we got an opportunity to work very closely with the sector skill councils of Government of India and NSDC, and especially with the SCPWD. So where we were trying to work collaboratively and see how we can augment the reach, how we can mentor them. Is it the right way? Is it only that we need to be physically there to activate them? So one is the mentoring, second is the technology, and the third thing is that the parental groups became more and more active. When I say the parents, both either mother or father, whoever it is, want to be part of the training, so that they want to be with their own daughter or son to understand, learn, and understand their own sons and daughters' potential. So the parents groups were becoming very, very strong. So we are working very closely with them. So there are parent support models are being worked out, or the employer candidate models are being worked out, outsourced models are being worked out. And also some of the national institutions like NIPMED or any other institutions. We have 9 national institutions when it comes to persons with disabilities in India. So we were working very closely with most of these national institutions to look at things, how to do the assessment, online assessment or self-assessment. So we also moved and set up the digital journey. And we were working with corporates very closely so that they look at inclusion from a completely different perspective, from a pure business perspective. Though Leonard Cheshire is a charity organization based out of London, working globally in many countries, but we talk business with the corporates. So that is something. And now the doors, when I joined Leonard Cheshire in 2012, the corporates were not that much willing to hire people with disabilities, but now the doors are so open. There is huge market demand and the supply side is weak. Why it is weak? Because they don't get into the formal education system. They go to either special schools or they come to the educational stream very lately. Because of all these challenges, the expectations of the corporates and the candidates' profile don't match in many occasions. So now we are working on a framework, how we can look at a competency-based hiring rather than just looking at the qualification-based hiring. That is where the mentoring becomes very, very important. How to improve the communication skills rather than looking at, have you studied English all over your school life? No. Can you communicate effectively? Can you understand the language? Can you effectively engage with people so that your customer relationship can be improved? So we are working with the different stakeholders. Our model is a partnership-driven model. That's what it is. And we work quite a lot with the mainstream institutions rather than looking at dedicated programs for persons with disabilities. So we collaborate with many training institutions, many academic institutions, many employers to make their workplace inclusive, their training curriculum inclusive, and the pedagogy inclusive. So that is where our work is. It is an end-to-end work, starting from the candidate to the family to the entire ecosystem, skilling ecosystem, and the employment ecosystem or entrepreneurship ecosystem. That's all from my side. Happy to answer any queries if you have.
Thank you, Revati ji. This is very, very enlightening, because you have put the entire problem 360 degrees, where whatever is available. So there is a very famous saying from a tennis star. He said, "You do what you can. You start from where you are, and you do from what you have." And I think you have done that in a brilliant, simply brilliant manner. So Revati ji, thank you.
Thank you.
My next question is to Deanne. Deanne, this question comes not from me. It comes from one of the people, one of your admirers who are listening to you. So Deanne, the question is, can you share some examples of high-level inclusion by corporates or other institutions globally? What are other countries doing to protect their population with disability? So 2 questions. Can you share some examples of high-level inclusion by corporates or other institutions globally? And second question is, what are countries doing to protect their population with disabilities?
Okay.
Shaheen, yeah. So Deanne, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Can you hear me?
perfect. Yes,
Yeah.
I can hear you. Thank you. Yes,
Great.
yes, please.
Great. I'm not sure I'm very well placed to answer the second one about what other countries are doing to protect their population, but around high-level inclusion. So the businesses that we work with are often recognizing that they need to make changes in their processes so that they include disabled people. So some of the things that we do are reviews to, for example, recruitment processes. And one big business that we work with, they said, we know that we have people with disabilities applying for jobs, but we know that they fall out of the process at some point, but we don't know where and we don't know why. So we did a review for them, and it was quite a simple thing. Once they'd realized it, we told them that they had a telephone interview. So one of the early screening pieces was a telephone interview. So for any candidates who were deaf or had a hearing impairment, it's a huge barrier. And of course, if those candidates had then asked the employer to make changes, I'm sure they would have done, but it's a very high stress situation applying for a job. So asking for something difficult, something different can feel very, very difficult. A lot of the organizations I work with are moving beyond what's necessary for compliance and actually saying, what do you need to do your job well? So to explain what I mean by that, we talk a lot about workplace adjustments and accommodations, which are often very small changes that are made to a job, a way of working that removes a barrier for a person with disabilities. So working from home might be one, using different technology might be another, working different patterns or hours. These are all things that can be adjustments or accommodations. And one major issue is that people are often so afraid of asking because of the reaction they will get. So we're seeing an increase in companies. GSK, for example, is one large global company we work with. who have made their application process for adjustments online, available to everyone. You don't have to provide any medical proof of why you need something. You don't even need to say that you need some equipment because you have a disability. It's about trusting employees to know what they need to be productive. So I think some of the best organizations are actually shifting to say, we trust you. We trust you to be the expert in your condition, in your disability, and what you need. We will trust you to get that. And we had a discussion with GSK, and people were saying, aren't you worried that maybe the system would be abused, that maybe people would order things they don't need? But then he was saying, well, it isn't. Because why would you? Why would you order assistive technology that you don't need? You just wouldn't do it. So a lot of this, the best organizations, it's really about a cultural change and a mind shift that firstly makes it safe for people to ask for what they need, but then goes beyond that and trusts. So another organization we work with, Bloomberg, major global business, they now have assistive technology on their company intranet site. So you can just download it in the same way that you would, say, Microsoft Office. You don't have to get permission. You can just do it. So, lots of really great examples where people are saying, okay, so I know that the minimum requirement locally is this, but actually, I believe this is about every single member of my team, my global team, my local team, being able to be their best. And that shift in how they're talking about it makes such a huge, huge difference in people feeling trusted, feeling that they belong, feeling that they can ask for the support that they need. In terms of protecting the population, I think that is so very difficult. And in the UK at the moment, we have the new Omicron variant, so people are being advised to work from home again, but at the moment there's not been any furlough scheme or any advice on people who are clinically extremely vulnerable and people who need to shield, and that needs to happen, because we saw far too many people, well, generally, but particularly with a disability, dying or very seriously ill during the previous pandemic stages, so that we just can't allow that to happen again.
Thanks, Diane, for bringing this perspective and giving examples of the corporates who are so differently friendly now, because they understand the value which people with disability bring to the organization. So thank you for bringing this live example of some of these, and the names which you take, GSK, Bloomberg, these are the global, some of the biggest organizations. So thanks for giving real life examples. Really oblige, gratitude from my side to you. Thank you. Next question is to Kripan. Kripan, the question comes again from one of your admirers, and he says that modern civilization is built upon the idea of independence and normalcy. Modern civilization is built upon the idea of independence and normalcy. Still, people with disability don't get a welcoming attitude at many places. How can we ensure mass attitudinal change? I'm repeating, so essentially what the gentleman is asking is about dignity, and how can the attitude change with people who do not have challenges towards people with disability. Kripan, am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yeah, what I would say to that is, what is normal? There is no such thing as normal, really. Everybody is their own individual, wonderful, miraculous normal. But actually, how do we affect this change culturally? Is actually, we've been talking in the chat about 50% of the world population having some kind of disability, or I think it's about 20% in the UK. If you're looking at truly an inclusive society, often people with disabilities are at the bottom of that list. If you look at other discriminatory issues such as gender, race, it's very visible often. And as I think Nish said, there's so many people with disabilities who do not have visible disabilities. So actually, as I said earlier, I think it's about looking at the person, not the disability. And I think we need to have a major cultural shift in society. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a matter of organizations such as people on this panel today coming together and constantly talking about how important it is to ensure that everybody in society is included, and keep chipping away. Where we were 5 years ago, it's further on now. Where we were 10 years ago, we were further on for 5 years ago. And it is about, I think it's about education, number one, but it's also about ensuring that people with disabilities are included in everything. When I was in the hospitality and events industry, to me, it was about, if you're providing an experience for people, make sure that the same experience you're giving it to disabled people. So often in hospitality venues, the only accessible way of getting into the place was going through the kitchens or behind the bins or something to get into the venue, which is not very pleasant. So it's about having that cultural understanding that whatever you do, include it from the beginning, and ensuring that whatever you are doing means that you have taken everything you can possibly do into account. I don't know if that answers the question. Yeah.
No, so definitely it brings the light on the attitude. You know, so you rightly said there is no concept of normalcy. So it will start from that fact that unless the person with disability starts believing in himself or herself and believing that he or she is equal, because he's as normal as anyone else. So very, very powerful message, very well put, Kripen. So thank you for bringing this wonderful perspective here. Next question is to Nish. And Nish, this is a very interesting question which a friend is asking, and the question is: in India, we are seeing more males having disability as compared to women, and we are seeing that more males getting jobs who are disabled as compared to women. What do you think is the ratio globally? Because you work in the sector, and I would invite any other panelists to throw light on this as well, because this is a very gender specific issue. So in India, we are seeing that mostly males, people with disability who are males, get the opportunity to go back and work. What do we see in other parts of the country? Revati ji, you want to share? Most welcome. Nish, do you want to share a perspective? Otherwise, Revati ji can share the perspective. Open to everyone, please.
Yeah, so male and female ratio when it comes to neurodiversity and autism, that is very commonly seen. And the reason, based on my limited knowledge and interactions with the researchers, is that females, they are better, they are good at hiding or managing their limitations and those challenges, which is very typical faced by people on the spectrum. And what is happening, that because of that, the diagnosis is not whatever best tools we have available for autism screening, we are not able to diagnose more. That's one of the theory. And about the employment, hey, that's a common challenge, whether person with disability or without disability. That's we as a whole society, we are facing that challenge, and that's something which we all need to help and bring that equity at work. And that's how we can really solve that problem. How do we bring, I would not say equality, I would say equity, where everybody is given an opportunity to be successful, right? Because that's a fair game, that's a fair expectations. And how do we do that? That's a question for us. One thing I would like to add, your previous question about how government is protecting. I wanted to share some of my thoughts and knowledge. In United States, it's a requirement by Department of Labor that every organization, if they are government, then 7% of the population has to be people with disability. It's mandatory. And if any business is doing business with government or getting any grants, then they have to show good faith efforts and demonstrate that they are putting best efforts to hire and meet that 7% goal of hiring people with disability as a workforce. Some part of Europe, as we work with some of the global large life sciences pharma companies, some of our customers are paying almost £250,000 and euros in Europe and in UK. I think it's more in Europe where it's a mandatory requirement. For example, in France it's 5%. In some of the other European countries, it's a mandatory requirement. And if you don't meet that quota, then they are paying that fine. So government is putting the best efforts to bring, to help people with disability find a meaningful job. But again, that's another whole topic for debate, whether it's good or it's working or not working. Because companies are paying and getting away by just paying the fine.
Right. So thanks, Nish, for sharing your perspective. Deanne and Revati ji, you have any comments to make? You want to add anything onto this?
Yeah, thanks, Siddharth. One quick thought is that from our experience working with women with disabilities, because we have dedicated projects for working with women with disabilities. So one thing what we have noticed is that they mainly want to focus mostly on entrepreneurship field rather than getting, and that too in the informal sector, rather than coming into wage employment. It's due to various reasons, especially in the South Asian country context I am talking about. It is because of various barriers and challenges that is there when it comes to wage employment. So they prefer to stay back in their villages or in their hometowns and take up the entrepreneurial models or start some small enterprises or whatever it is. So that is one thing that happens. But of late now we have focused, we have a talent pathway model which we clearly work on, where we try to mentor the young women with disabilities to come out of this niche and look at the wage employment as a core area of work. And that too in the government system, as Nish was pointing out, the quota system, which many of the countries have. 3%, 4%, and also incentivization to the private sector by the government. A lot of policies and guidelines are there, which is not being utilized 100%. So we build that awareness from the policy perspective, engaging with private sector strongly and influence them to hire persons with disabilities and also women with disabilities in particular. So we put in efforts, and they might require some additional guidance or mentoring to make them get into the workplace setting, and also whatever the assistive devices or other mobility challenges or accommodation challenges or cost to disability that needs to be looked out across disabilities, but especially for women, the challenges might be a little higher. So we try to address those things from a gendered lens and try to influence that. And with some of the corporates, what we do is that they have the gender committees within the corporates. So we try to see that whether there is a representation of women with disability into those platforms where they can be effectively represent the case within the ecosystem, and also try to make things more inclusive and acceptable. So this is something which I would like to add to what Nish was mentioning. Thanks, Siddharth.
Thank you, Revati. Deanne, do you want to add anything onto this point, please?
Yes, thank you. I was going to say something similar to Nish around diagnosis. And diagnosis, particularly around neurodiversity, is often a privilege. So it's a privilege of the educated, of the wealthy, and often of men. And the typical idea of someone with autism, for example, is a very male profile. So I think we're only just starting to learn about this. And the term neurodiversity was only coined in 1998. So it's not even 25 years, and the thinking is really changing. I think you're touching obviously on a really important topic of intersectionality. And we are increasingly and far more, and rightly so, looking at the different lived experiences of people with disabilities from different ethnic and racial backgrounds, from different faiths, as well as different genders. And of course, we know that women, whether they have a disability or not, are much more likely to be carers, either for children or for older relatives. So again, that's an additional barrier to the workplace. And I think some of the things that can be really helpful to people who are in work or who acquire a disability is often some targeted career development and sort of career coaching into work courses. And I heard a great example of a woman with a disability, this a few years ago, who was told she could go on a development course for people with disabilities or for women. And she decided that actually her disability was something that she felt was more of a disadvantage than the fact she was a woman. So she went on that one. But I think until that we start to actually look at these cross sections and that we're meeting everybody's needs, there will still be some of these divides. So thank you for a very good question.
Thank you, Deanne, for bringing this viewpoint. My last question is to Kripan, and this question comes from Lakshmi. Parents, because parents who have people with disability, they are completely concerned, how their children would live after they are no longer there on this planet. So how does one tackle with it, and how can the fears be removed? And so these are all very softer issues. Do you want to just throw some light on it, please, Kripan?
Yeah, I think it's very natural, particularly considering the historical context here about people who have children with disabilities really actually going to panic mode almost and thinking, how will this person, child, survive without me? I think, again, it goes back to a cultural shift. We need a real cultural shift to actually say, and we need to have some support mechanism in place for those parents to ensure that they can actually have the ability to take that lead, have their children lead independent lives, and encourage them to encourage their children to let them understand. Sorry, I'm stuttering today. Let them understand that actually there's no reason at all in the world that if your child is disabled that they cannot go on to have a full, successful life, and actually give them the tools to do that. Despite their disability, etc. And I think there's a lot of support out there for disabled people directly, but we often forget the people who care for them, be it the parents, the partners, whoever it is, and actually give them the tools to support to be able to actually say, actually, no, I've given my child the tools they need to lead a full life, and now I can step back. And I know it's very difficult for parents to do that. I think it's a learning curve for them as well. And going back to the neurodiversity issue, one of the other hats I wear is I've recently joined the board of the Neurological Alliance in England. So a lot of the matter around neurodiversity is going to come much more into play in the coming years in the neuro community. And I think it's very important that we ensure that everybody with disabilities get the help they need.
Thanks, Kripan. Very, very bright perspective, and I think that's the only way we can ensure that independence and continuity remains with these children who eventually will become adults and they have to remain independent. Yeah. So thanks for bringing this wonderful thought process. Sandeep ji, may I invite you to summarize and take the proceedings forward? Thank you, Sandeep ji.
Thank you, Siddharth, for moderating a very nice session, which we had geographical challenges in terms of people across the countries and locations and the times as well, because everybody was not tuned to this time, especially the New Jersey Nish was there, and UK definitely is the daytime. So thank you very much. So I think overall, looking at the kind of discussions we had and the kind of challenges we faced, and especially orienting towards the pandemic times, one thing is very clear, that pandemic brought us closer. In fact, the local and global communities, either maybe PWDs or otherwise the normal people, I think we became more closer. And people who were not able to see each other even at some point of time are able to interact with each other. So the distances were cut short, and it made a real global community in real sense, though it has been virtual, but in real sense, it brought us closer to understand each other's challenges and issues. They gave another dimension was that most of the people who were hesitant to be digital, I think, but per force became digital, and this pandemic made them and ensured that there is a digital presence of and footprint of each one. Like even for Sarthak in India, I recall that first 6 months we had a tough challenge of getting people trained physically in our centers, and we had to adapt to the digital means. But the good part was that if we trained 5,000 people, 50% of them were employed immediately digitally. So no physical presence, but out of 5,000, 2,500 were employed digitally. So that was a wonderful success for the organization to get people across and get them employed as well. In terms of the challenges, I think the solutions came faster and very clearly. In terms of policies and regulations, I think when we see of reservations and employment reservations for people with disabilities, I think each country has its own way of handling. In India, as per the Act, we have got 3% reservation for this category of people. And the private and public sector are incentivized to the extent of 5% if they employ people with disabilities. So there is a huge focus upon their employment, making them entrepreneurs, giving them soft loans, giving them advantages as and when they face. And fantastic work being done by Cheshire group in terms of getting people employed. Good job by providing assistive devices and solutions from Nish. And a fantastic work for the specific community of polio affected by Kripan and his organization, and Dian for the fantastic work in employing people with various organizations across the cultures and locations. So I think overall, if we see the kind of platform, the discussions we had gives us a very global view of things, going across the geographies and understanding each other's necessities or requirements in a much better fashion, and ready to cooperate to each other irrespective of the geographic location. So even for the medical equipments or supplies or assistive devices, which we cannot have it over here, have been wonderfully done across. And the kind of role the organizations like WTC played for the PWDs in terms of giving them support systems, organizing camps for them, giving them alternate livelihoods like Paithani saris being made by them or flower arrangements being made. So I think they all gave us good thoughts that whatever was possible or by virtual means, let's adopt that and make people experience on that. So like sari weaving, carpet weaving, or any other trade, for example, or flower arrangements or painting work or photography work, understanding that, or embroidery work can be well taught on virtual platforms. People made the best use of it. The infrastructure of technology and a great infrastructure, which is more like a cost-effective technology and accessibility is very important, as said by Amit Sajeva, who is doing a great pioneering work on the principles of Mahatma Ji, and he has done a great contribution in this sector as well. So that's very important. Also redefining that what is the term of a disabled person. It is, one of our colleagues said that it is natural and everybody is normal like. So they are normal in their own way and we are normal in our own ways. So this is the new definition you get across. Like India refers as PWDs, or in Hindi they call it Divyangjan, as Siddharth mentioned in the beginning. But globally, people with disabilities, people with different abilities is important. Like in UK, it is disabled. Like when we registered Sarthak, we had Sarthak for the disabled, or Society for the Disabled in UK, because that's where disabled is known more. But in India, it is treated differently. So each geography has a different respect and different nomenclature being accorded. We didn't have anybody from the Gulf, but Gulf gives a lot of credence to the people with different abilities or PWDs. They give a lot of credence, a lot of financial support is given to them. And they really ensure that their parents and the children who are affected lead a very normal life. it's very difficult to ensure that the future of these kind of people after their families or parents leave away. But one thing for sure, that if we are giving them a sustainable environment, I think we are making them for good. At one point of time in India, a child with such kind of disability is always considered some kind of a bad omen, or really was not respected well. But today, times have changed where the children have come forward, and instead of taking money from the parents, they are giving back to their parents. So times and the thoughts have changed. They are being employed by different organizations. We have seen Big Four employing the people with different abilities, getting them into the mainstream. For example, Sarthak also has 55% of their employment in the IT sector. Now, IT is a big sector in India who supports globally. 55% of our trainees from these 24 centers are absorbed in the IT sector. Hospitality is another great sector. So definitely they are finding more of livelihood, becoming more self-sustainable, and moving in the direction where they fit. We have seen some innovative thoughts from Mr. Devashish, who is trying to unite this community by different means. Like, he is organizing a singing competition. He has offered his experience and his capabilities to not only do the music field, but also organize the painting guys across the globe, sell their product across the globe, or give them more work across the globe. So these kind of innovative steps to really make them smile is a very important step, and we can always think on different directions to really bring them to the mainstream. Like Revati mentioned about giving a few tips for their apprenticeship programs, or like I think Diane said about the interview formats being changed depending on the requirements of the people. So these are all innovative thoughts which comes with the experience, what we face, and the conditions which are prevailing currently, which is more of a pandemic situation. I think by force or by purpose, we come with different solutions. As respect to the employment, which was touched upon in terms of the men versus women, or it is more prone in the men's society versus women, or men get more opportunities. I think it's again geographically dependent. In India, unfortunately, this PWD kind of a situation is more in the society which is less empowered, in the sense that their financial acumen is not that great. So we find a lot of these challenges over there, and that's where they would like to confine in their own boundaries, own borders, rather than working in organizations. But they would like to do self jobs or self-help jobs, for example. Or there are many organizations which are like self-helping groups, which create groups and employ these kind of women across in their force. And one greatest example is a kind of what we call as in India is papad, or we call paprika across the globe, which is a very fine flour-made material for eating. And that has grown up in leaps and bounds because of these different type of women, differently able women being employed at their homes. They make at their homes and supply to their society, which in turn put across. So overall, I think we had got into a good discussion, a lot of thoughts exchanged, which can benefit all of us mutually. And as Sarthak advisor on board for the last 12 years, I think I can only assure you that once we get into collaboration with many of you, which we are also considering at this moment, or vice versa, I think we can go a long way ahead in this domain and provide a very, very meaningful environment to this community as we move on, and give them a sustainable environment which is long lasting. Thank you very much to all of you, and have a good evening, good morning, and a good day, all of you guys across. Thank you. Over to the host. I think I've got some more honors to be done, which is I'm leaving to the organizers now to go for the next step.
So we have the virtual mementos, sir.
Sure.
Vishal. Okay, let me, yeah. Wonderful. So we can go one by one, and Sandeep sir, you may announce it and hand it over virtually, please.
Okay. Thank you, Upaji, for being with us. And as always, your support has been fantastic. We have done a lot of programs. Thank you, Kripain, for joining us. I think it's the first interaction with you over this panel, and look forward to being with you and your organization in future, because we have a UK chapter as well now. Thank you, Kripain. Hi, Diane. Thank you so much. Fantastic work being done, and good to connect with you. Look forward. Thank you for all your comments today. Thank you, Devashish. Fantastic to see you as the Sarthak advisor in UK, and I'm sure you will create another network with the panelists out here, mostly majority from UK. Thank you very much for your innovative thoughts going forward. Thank you, Nish. Fantastic work you're doing in US. And I'm sure with some of your work, which should be transferred and could be transferred into India also. I have a lot of thoughts on assistive devices. I think we should work together in this direction. Thank you, Nish. Thank you, Amitji. We are honored to have you here. We met at the Mahatma Award function a few months back. And the pioneering work you are doing, we are really happy that you were with us at our panel. Though being late, never mind, but your thoughts are very, very advantageous for us and the community. Thank you. Thank you, Revati ji. I think this is the second interaction we had a few days back. And I think your Leonard Cheshire group is doing a fantastic job, including India. And we look forward to be talking to you once again with your colleagues and convey our best wishes to Saku as well. Thank you, Revati. Thank you, Shaina Nizarji. I think we never met, you being the board member from Chennai. And thank you for meeting us virtually, and very good introduction of the panelists by you and your thoughts. Look forward to interact further. Thank you, Siddharth, for an encouraging and enriching session as always. And I'm sure we all will take it forward very nicely. Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sandeep, for summarizing this entire session so well, making it so crisp, making it so wonderful to have point discussion. You brought the best out of all the conversation everybody had. So really appreciate your astute wisdom and your focused approach. It really helps. And our gratitude to all the panelists. Yeah, Sandeep, please.
Thank you very much. I think we should end up this program, and all the best.
So thank you, everyone. But before we end, we would like to play the national anthem.
National anthem, yeah.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Vishal, you can go ahead.
End up at respective locations. That much I can ask.
Vishal, you can start, please.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंग विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उज्जल जलधि तरंगा
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.
And as we say, fir milenge in Hindi, sayonara to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining.